What's going on, guys? My name is El Dinero, and welcome to another episode of The Midnight Hour. Today's guest is Miguel, returning from the wilderness. We have a wrestling podcast together, as I'm sure you all know. The link for that will be in the description if anybody's interested. This is a really, really good episode. I had a whole lot of fun recording it. It's really funny. My head was sore from laughing afterwards, and I just think that you will really enjoy this. I don't really talk about sports very often on the Midnight Hour, which is really strange considering the bulk of my listenership comes from the video game FIFA, so you're obviously keen football fans, and I think that this is one of the rare episodes where we actually talk pretty in-depth about football and specifically the eras of football from when we were growing up and stuff like that. So it's I don't know, it's really cool to be able to do stuff like this. I'm glad that I didn't kill every single aspect of the podcast, and that I can still upload semi-regularly from time to time, and that people still listen. That's really cool. So thank you very much for all of the continued support. There'll also be a link in the description to the merch shop and all that stuff if anyone is feeling particularly generous. I only get 10% of the earnings, so I don't give a shit. If you're planning on buying merch just to support me, I would say don't bother doing that because it's very expensive. It's just that it's pretty high quality stuff. Most of the t-shirts that I buy come from Society 6, which is the website which I chose to host my merch store. So with that out of the way, I launched a new YouTube channel, which may come as a huge surprise to all of you. I'm playing Age of Empires 2 all the time. Everybody knows this. And I've just decided to make a whole channel dedicated solely to that because I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my YouTube channel. I know it's pretty consistently dead and all that stuff. But then there's weird things happen. I review 13 Reasons Why and it gets over 1 million views and that kind of thing. So I have a couple of long-term projects in mind for my YouTube channel that are to do with particular aspects or facets of media. There's a couple of album reviews I have planned that are going to be very different to anything that I've done before. I think I just want to make a couple of videos explaining why I love certain albums, and I don't really even care if no one ever watches it. I just want to do it just to do it because there's that sort of creative urge that exists in me, and I want to satisfy that somehow. And I just feel like it would be a bit of a mess if I was one day here's a podcast about fucking sea creatures invading land, and then the next day there's an Age of Empires 2 video, and then the next day there's an album review. It's just very strange, and it's kind of, I don't know, I look at my YouTube channel sometimes and I filter it by most popular videos, and it's just such a weird mesh of everything from this 13 Reasons Why review, and then it's Leicester City career mode, and then it's Jaden Smith's top 5 tweets, and then it's Nerve movie review. I don't know, it's a really weird channel, and I would never have imagined that it would go that way. But I spent the last few I spent every single waking moment of my procrastination filled work days during this quarantine period watching old Chris Smoove videos from 2010, and oh man, I really loved watching those. And then I sort of watched a few of my own Modern Warfare videos to compare, and then I just sort of got that buzz. Man, it was so exciting to start a new YouTube channel and be part of that little community that I was part of before I transitioned full-time to FIFA. And it's just I don't know, I kind of got that spark back a little bit, and I was you know what, I'm gonna make an Age of Empires 2 channel because I play this game all the time, and all I would have to do really is just press record on my games, and I would have a whole lot to do and say about it. I know most of you probably don't play the game. In fact, I know most of you do not play the game. I know this for a fact, but I know that a few of you do. So you might be interested in that, and I know that a few of you are probably open to the idea of getting interested in the game, which you can do from my new channel. It will mostly be live games, I think, but I have a couple of strategy videos and things like that in mind. I don't really see the point in me doing tutorials and videos and things because there are so many of those already on YouTube if you have any vested interest in the game. But I don't know, I just thought that I would tell you if anyone feels excuse me, if anyone feels dropping by to the new channel to show some support, I would really appreciate it, because I'm currently on like 25 subscribers and it hashtag feels bad, man. So yeah, that would be very nice of you if you could do that. The link to that will be in the description. But anyways, enough pillow talk. It's time to get on to today's episode, which I hope you really enjoy. I don't have time to actually edit a huge, phenomenal, beautiful, motivational intro into this. But I also feel really weird about the fact that I do these huge intros that are like really pretentious and stuff like that. And no one ever comments on them at all or even mentions them. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I just won't do those anymore, or maybe I will. I don't know, but I don't have time today. The song that ends this episode is Akala's song, You Put a Spell on Me. It's the only thing that I could think of that was somewhere close to the word curse that was either not a terrible song or heavily copyright protected, because I was going to use My Curse by Killswitch Engage, but that's a no-no. Blocked in 254 countries, apparently. I don't want to sound like, a fucking idiot, but I did not know that there were that many countries. If you were to ask me, like, gun to my head, how many countries is there? If you get the wrong answer, I'll kill you. You can have it correct to the nearest 10. I would say like 180, maybe. But no, 254 is the number of countries. And that's just the number of countries that this video would be blocked in if I use this song. So, that shit cray. Anyways, on to the episode. Miguel is, his link will be in the description to his Twitter and stuff like that. When I say stuff like that, I mean just his Twitter. I'm not going to link to like the man's Instagram or anything like that. But I would encourage like all the people who only listen to this show if Jack and Loosemore are on it. I would say like just give this episode a listen. I think you'll really enjoy it. And I think myself and Miguel have come up with a few other ideas for episodes that are going to be really good and that I'm really excited to record. So anyway, that's it. I'm done. Enjoy the episode. I'll see you on the other side.
No power in the verse can stop me.
So I'm joined today by Miguel. Miguel, welcome back to the Midnight Hour. How are you doing?
It's good to be here. It's good to make another appearance and, not drop the maddest shit. It's nice. Well, it is mad, but not too mad as time traveling.
Although it is, it's still going to be pretty mad, though, from what I understand.
It's quite mad. I was just trying to it's reasonably mad, yeah. I think, well, we'll get into it anyways. But yeah, it's good to be back either way.
Yeah, and the listener singular will definitely be happy that you're back as well. So
shout out to the listener. Very important.
You know who you are, Bradley. I just made that. I don't know what his name. I mean, there's more than one. Is what I'm trying to say here. So I believe we're going to talk about football curses, which is an excellent topic. I know a whole bunch of them. There's fuck shit. I just came up with that joke there. I hadn't got that one planned. But I read. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I read in like a WhatsApp group one of my friends saying something like, if the league is voided this year and Liverpool don't win the league, they're definitely just cursed. And it got me thinking about how that might actually happen realistically. Like the Premier League might just call off this season because of the COVID-19. Like, do you have any opinion either way about that potential thing?
It's weird. The weird thing is, like, you could make a case that this year, for this to happen, or maybe the year that Man City won it with like 21 points clear of United, like, this is probably the year where you could do it of all the other years, because it's not a case of like there's 3 points, it's like what, 21, 22, I think, between Liverpool. I think they're about 3 games away from wrapping it up. The problem is it's not so much at the top that you kind of get worried about who gets in trophies, because those teams will probably get trophies next year after. It's at the other end of things. My beloved Norwich, bottom of the league. Now, not saying they would have gotten out of the relegation zone, of course, but also there's an argument to be made that they could.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the campaign that these teams prepare for is 38 games. Like at no stage are they like, yeah, by game week 31 we expect to be
Yeah.
like on this many points. Like that's not how it works. Like it's a full campaign and it's either that or it's nothing. Like that's the way that I view it, is that I don't really care about Liverpool and the title, but I think if the Premier League goes ahead and says, right, the season is wrapped up on this many games, these teams are relegated, like, sorry, but that's just the way it is. I think they're going to have huge court cases on their hands. They're going to bleed lots of money. If you think about the time that Tevez scored that goal that relegated Sheffield United, and then Sheffield United sued West Ham, and I forget how much money they were awarded, but I think it was like the cost of an expected transfer for Carlos Tevez. It was some like obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
If you factor in Premier League TV deals, which is like hundreds of millions of pounds to every single club every season in the Premier League, and the fact that the way that the parachute payment system works is that if a team gets relegated from the Premier League and then they win the championship next season, they don't get the same prize money that another team does, because they're deemed like stronger because of the fact they came from the Premier League, like slightly stronger squad. And so because of that, like, you can't fucking just relegate. Do you think Norwich are going to be like, oh, well, we're relegated, that's that? Like,
Yeah, we'll just now begin in the championship and adjust to that. Yeah. It's hard as well. If
they're going to get sued for like £1 billion by all these clubs if that's the way they do it. Like, I think the only thing that makes any sense logistically is just void the league. Nothing happens. We start over next season. I think that's the only way to get it done.
Yeah, and you're also talking about people losing fitness to a point where it probably is going to take you. It's a little bit like an extended summer break, so you're going to have like weeks on top of weeks to even get back to normal fitness, where you can play 2-3 times a week. Because if it comes back too soon, and they're playing games behind closed doors because it's safe. Okay, look, this is safe between now. All the people here have been tested. You'd still end up with the thing where a lot of people would just be injured straight away because their bodies aren't used to then that impact. And it's the same on the other podcast that we have, in which we cover pro wrestling. Like, when people come back from long-term injuries, they sometimes can get injured right away or hurt people because they're not used to the actual toll. And it's the same for all sports, essential or non-essential. Wink, wink. So another thing I kind of thought of, which would be to just have playoffs. So to have the bottom three, for say the Premier League, and the top three of the Championship play each other.
Something of a German league setup.
Yeah,
where they
play like a little mini league. Everyone plays each other once. The ones who are the top three, they'll stay up or go up. The bottom three, they'll stay down or go down. And you can do the same kind of across the top four as well. Or you can do the same across. I mean, I suppose it's the Champions League places really that you want to contest for. I don't think anyone's actively contesting for Europa League. The shocking thing is,
in fact, they're trying to not qualify for the Europa League.
It's my favorite competition. We'll get into that later. A certain team that I like has done quite well, but also quite shit in it.
I know who you mean.
If you measure success by winning things, but if you measure success by being in the finals, it's fucking sick. But I was watching. There's like a YouTube video that popped up, suggestions, which was like an hour of like amazing matches compilations, and it had all the usuals you'd expect: City versus QPR, Tottenham Ajax, Tottenham Man City, Tottenham Man City again, Monaco. Basically, it was pretty much within the last sort of 10 years, anyways. And then they showed the Atletico versus Liverpool, the second leg, and I looked up. I was like, didn't that happen like less than a month ago? How the fuck were they still playing? Especially with the situation in Spain. Like, that was unbelievable, because everyone must have known that, well, this can't carry on. Like, this is as far as it can get. So it's very weird they even had the knockout stages for the Champions League. And I know it's appeal sponsors and TV rights probably, and the slots to keep your slot at that time of the night.
On the same night in Paris, Borussia Dortmund played PSG. At least they played that behind closed doors. Like, at least that's something, you know.
That's like the least of that sort of type of situations. That was a a bit surreal. But you could really put about 10 cases forward of what people should do if they want to go through with the sort of ending. You could be like, well, the season, they could do a thing where, say, for example, the next season, it actually starts in January. And between now and the end of the year, we get to settle all these extra games, all these extra things. But then you're looking at the Euros being delayed, and they've got sponsors and money. And then you're looking at the World Cup. I think the World Cup's going to be in January anyways next year, if it happens. Yeah. But you still be looking at adjustments being made for that, and then what happens after that. And so it's easier to null and void it. But I don't know if people always take the easy option, to be honest.
There's one other reason to avoid it as well, which is that logistically, again, contracts are going to run out on the 30th of June, and if you can't have all the game weeks finalized by then, I think it turns it's farcical, because you can only have a squad of 25 players over the age of 21 in the Premier League, and if there are teams who are not going to be able to meet that quota because contracts expired, it just destroys the integrity of their entire campaign, in my opinion. Like, I just don't see how you can go ahead with that. And you could say something like, oh, well, they can offer a rolling contract for 1 week or whatever. Like, yeah, they could, but the clubs haven't put the money aside to pay these players for that length of time, right? Like, the contract is a contract. These are the terms that they've signed up for. Like, the onus shouldn't be on the club to have to shell out extra money just because of something like that. It's
to fulfill fixtures that they probably didn't want to play in the first place. Yeah,
exactly. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm purely looking at it from a logistical standpoint. I cannot see a way that the FA can avoid serious lawsuits and bleeding money without just simply declaring it null and void. And I may be wrong, like, who knows, time will tell. We may listen back to this in like 2 months and be like, wow, that guy didn't even know about the tree seashells arrangement. I don't know why I went with that reference.
The old seashell arrangement from 1913 that actually stands above contracts. The Espionage Act. I just think as well, so Willian, for example, from Chelsea, he's already gone. They just cut his contract because he's going to be out of contract in the end of the season. And
really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's gone. So I think that if you then kind of present that case to a player where you're like, well, we can save up a lot of money by cutting your contract now, so you can start negotiating for the team you next want to play for, instead of waiting for you to get paid every week to run down a contract. So next time you see Chelsea, even if it is this year, even if it is this season or counted this season, they'll have a player missing. And that probably applies up and down to every team in every league just about. Just don't do it. Like, look at Italy as well, how fucking scary it is in Spain and stuff like that. And it's just like they're talking about continuing it in June, July. And it usually takes players' action for this and teams not turning up. Now, I know the owner of Brescia, and they're the bottom of Serie A. These already said, like, we're not going to fulfill the fixtures. So they're like, well, you're just going to lose 3-0. And he's like, well, yeah, but like loads of people, like, Brescia is one of the worst affected parts in Italy, at least, and possibly in Europe. And he kind of argued, being like, it's happening now. It's not like it's a thing, oh, remember the war, oh my god, yeah, that was horrible. But that's now been over for 2 years. Like, the remain, we survived it. It's just like, this thing's happening right now, and you're asking people to kind of put that aside and be like, go out there and really play down that 4-4-2 whilst, your people that have literally died. It's probably a better argument to make to shut it down. The sad thing is, maybe it'll be a thing where it's just like Liverpool will never win a title again, and this was their year, and it was just like, boop, gone, just like that.
Cursed,
if you will. Which is obviously brings us to this topic, right? Footy curses.
So tell us some footy curses.
I won't even tell you footy curses. I mean, I will tell you footy curses, but I will tell you first, why is it that curses exist? Question: do curses have a rational explanation? Answer:
yes.
And no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they definitely have to on some, like, are they real? Like, no, but, like, is there definitely, like, a mentality that goes into understand? Like, yeah, definitely.
There's a process of thinking, I guess.
It's like how Jerry Lawler could just never beat Bret Hart, because he
Yeah,
was cursed.
is this the psychology wasn't there? He didn't have the deeper knowledge of things. There's a psychologist, Daniel Kahneman, probably pronouncing that wrong, and he put a kind of a theory forward on the two distinct modes of decision making. So you have one system, which is the automatic system, and the unconscious one, which is kind of, I don't know, you don't really think about which mug you're going to drink coffee out of. You just think, I need to pour this hot water so it doesn't fall straight on the floor. But you don't think, I want the blue mug, I want the green mug, I want the red glass. If you're really hungry or thirsty, you just kind of grab what's there, and you're like, well, this is a mug, it will do. I'm just drinking out of it. And then there's other processes which in your brain, which is kind of more controlled, which is kind of built around rational thought. When to cross the road, putting furniture together is one. When you go to an area you haven't lived in, you need to go to a certain address or a certain part, you're very methodical. Okay, get this bus, get this train, go here, say this, and pick up this. So, yeah, for the most part, as far as human behavior goes, as advanced as we are, we do generally operate on the first system. So if I get up right now and I go outside to put the bins out, it's not really like a methodical, like, right, step, bag, door, keys, bin, clothes. Like, you just do, wouldn't you? You just...
Yeah.
You wouldn't break it down to, like, now it's time to pick it up, and now it's time to walk 2 steps. So, but the system would then change. It would become secondary if someone else was helping you take out the bins. You'd break it down a little bit more. Right, you get this side. Okay, this bag's particularly full. By the way, I haven't taken out my bin, and I think today's the day they're picking it up. So that's why the references to the bin are coming, I think. But, yeah.
I brought mine back in today, and
Good
I
man.
have like a lot of anxiety because the estate that I live in is like there are lots of families and stuff here. There's always like kids running around, and there's like one family in particular that's always sitting outside at their balcony. And when you were like, yeah, you don't think about it that much, you just do all the stuff. Like with my anxiety, I think about every single fucking aspect of this while I'm walking past, and this family is looking, and I'm like, all right, I'm not transmitting the coronavirus to your kids. I'm just trying to get the thing.
But that's the secondary logic, because now there's other people involved in that process.
Oh yeah, very true actually. Yeah,
So-
but
so now
even like they're impartial observers, but they're still like relevant entirely to what I'm doing.
To the action, right, exactly. Whereas, for example, if you know no one's down the street, you've had to look outside and you see no one. You might still think there's someone watching you, so you might be like, maybe I won't just scream for no reason while I'm putting out the bins. Ah! Like, because just in case someone's listening, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same as, for example, if you get a cup of water, you don't measure how much water you're going to be put in the cup. You either put an amount or you don't. But if someone else asked you for water, you'd be looking at the glass and going, yeah, they probably want this glass, and I'll fill it up quite highly, so you don't give them like a third of water because half the water's bounced the fuck out. It's kind of like what the rationale behind curses and not curses. So curses can give chaos meaning. It's like you get those people that see Jesus on their toast, or Tyson Fury on their socks, or I don't know, Pinochet in their bowl of cereal. So
all the cliches,
Saddam Hussein in your fucking steak.
Every time I have a steak, I'm always looking for his big fucking mustache.
Stone Cold Steve Austin on your cup of tea. Like, we've all had these things happen. Because, for example, I saw a thing on Facebook, which are people posting, the Karens, if you will, of the world. Look at me, I'm relevant. I know the memes, but yeah.
Dude, I actually have a side anecdote about the Karens of the world, if you're at all interested.
But I am. Let's just get this out of the way, man, and then we'll get to the juicy.
Then we'll get to the Karen, yeah.
And get to the Karens. But there's like a thing which was like, in the 1920s there was this thing, and then in the 1820s it was this thing, in the 1720s is this thing, and people go, well, look at that, see, the 20s is just a cursed decade. Every single century. But the thing is, you're not taking into account like the 300 million centuries that precede that.
Yeah, yeah.
Where it just so happened that no one took any notice of a consistent thing happening around the time, and time is made up anyways, so it's humanly made. But tell me about the Karen.
It's also like when if something bad happens on Friday the 13th, people are like, it's because it's Friday the 13th, but like bad stuff happens to you all the time, Jimmy. It's not just because of the fucking day that it is. It's just this time you happen to have something else to ascribe it to. But like, bad news, buddy, it's because you're a very unlucky kind of guy and shit just happens to you anyway.
Yeah. Would you have not fallen over if it wasn't Friday the 13th? Well, how would you know? Because you can never take that moment back. All you have is the data that's presented in front of you. It's Friday the 13th. I fell over, and, I somehow ended up falling down a pile of fucking mud, and now look at how unlucky am I?
Checkmate, atheist.
Exactly. Yeah. Where's your god now? But tell me about the Karen though.
Oh, it just so happened that this was on the one fucking day that everyone has been talking about the Karen shenanigans. But I work for a fund management company, and I'm dealing with this one fund that has retail investors, which means that they're individuals as opposed to companies. Like, instead of Bank of New York, their shareholder is like John Smith from down the road, and there's this one shareholder who's trying to change her address, and she sends her fucking change of address form in on Thursday, right? Then there's Good Friday, bank holiday, then there's Saturday, then there's Sunday, then there's Easter Monday, bank holiday. She emails on Tuesday and she goes, "How long is this taking? This is unacceptable." And I'm just like, I'm so fucking annoyed, because like, this is a woman who has no fucking idea how long it takes a fund management company to change the details of its fucking investors. It's not like you type in some fucking digits into a computer and press return and then it's done. Like, there's all sorts of fucking, there's tax implications, new tax requirements every time you do that. There's a whole new set of like anti-money laundering conditions that you need to, like, it's like a serious fucking deal. You have to do a full screening on this person to make sure that they're not in breach of any compliance regulations and stuff like that. And she just thinks, she has the fucking audacity to say this is unacceptable. Like, listen, Karen, you're in no fucking position to deem something acceptable or unacceptable. You have no fucking idea what it is to be unacceptable in this industry. Like, man,
you are not in control. Like, this isn't your battle to pick up. Yeah, it's
it's not like that sort of, like, she's in the age group of people where, like, and I'm sorry this is like super generalizing what I'm about to say, but like, people who are sort of 60s and above are very entitled about things because they have notions about how the world should be, and the world was simpler in their day, and like blah 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 blah, and like there's all these conditions that contribute to it. But like, that's her thing. She's just like, this is unacceptable. It's like, you're an investor in a fund that I look after. This isn't McDonald's where you're the customer and you're always right. You're not the customer at all. I don't have to fucking do anything that you say, and you can complain all you want. It still doesn't fucking matter. Like, all of this shit still applies to you. But like, she thinks that like, oh, the louder I kick and bang, the more attention I'll get. It's not like that at all. Like, oh man, it just triggers the fuck out of me that these people come with these kinds of queries all the time.
You get
her name happened to be Karen.
So you were living up to your name. No, that's why she's living up to the name, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think people just get this. Maybe it's worked for her before, and you get this weird entitlement. Like, I think I had it in my role as well, where someone says something and it's not disrespectful because it's not personal, but it just hits that little nerve spot where you're just like, hey, you know what? Fuck you. How can you not know that things don't happen this quickly? Or, people have been off work or on holiday or this and that. And it's just like so either they know and they're just kind of steamrolling over and they're going, well, if I say it's unacceptable, that is like a trigger word for them to change something. Or, genuinely that entitled. Frankie Boyle tweeted out, he said that like the annoying part is that like every person who's over a certain age thinks they fought in World War II.
I know.
Like, they didn't just survive
ridiculous.
it or be through it. It's like they fought it as if it was like your generation's soft. It's like, you weren't in the war. Like, you were alive during it, but you weren't in it. And yeah, it's just you get this. Hopefully this generation, I really hope that people kind of don't take it as like, when I was your age, I had to be locked in watching Netflix for 6 weeks, you prick. Look at you now with
I'm
all
sure
this.
it will.
Yeah, I think
Like,
people use it as a weapon of entitlement.
It's human nature to just, like, when things change around you, it's human nature to be like, oh, I don't actually like this change. It was easier before. And then you just simplify the reasons, and then before you know it, you're just one of those people that's like, oh, well, back in my day, we fucking went to school in the snow fighting the dinosaurs and Nazis at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, life was pretty okay, and then 9/11 happened, and
Yeah.
I couldn't really follow my dreams anymore, and it's just like, were you in America? Like, do you remember? Oh my God! Sorry, this just brought me back. Sorry, side tangent. Pillow talk time. Do you remember Rescue Me when Lieutenant Lou, what's his name?
Ken Shea.
Oh, Shay. Yeah, Ken Shay. Yeah,
Kenny, yeah.
Kenny Boy. He goes down. So it's a TV show about firefighters, and obviously it just came out after 9/11. Everyone knows that. What am I even explaining what Rescue Me is? Come on. But
Yeah,
there's
it's the
that
best TV
episode.
show of all time,
There
ever.
There you go.
Period.
All 300 people on the subreddit say so. So,
Yeah.
that subreddit should be bigger. But side note. But anyways, he goes to like a 9/11 survivors like meeting, like an AA meeting type thing, and he's like talking, and he's like, yeah, I went through it. I was there. I saw people I knew die, get shot, and the guy next to him, he's like, yeah, it was pretty horrible. And he's like, oh, were you there? Like, did you have any family? He's like, no, I was just watching it on TV, really. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's it. That's your relation. And obviously you can't really put a sort of weight, a monopoly on pain, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it was like, listen, I was fucking there and you weren't there. So, I don't know. Hopefully,
Yeah.
attitudes will be nicer. But sorry. Yeah. Back to curses. So
Yeah.
there's a well-known sort of curse in mythology, for example, which is that if you went into a pharaoh's tomb and you opened it, it would mean that you're cursed. So if anything happened to any archaeologist during any expeditions where they go anywhere that there's the tomb or anything, you can just be like, well, that's the curse, isn't it?
Yep.
Because it's confirmation bias, but it's logically inconsistent, but you're not taking all the facts in the history of time to kind of make that decision there and then. Movies are known as being cursed. I think it's like the Omen, Poltergeist, there's probably others, The Exorcist, and they're quite known for being cursed movies, aren't they?
Yeah, there's also one movie, and I wish I actually fucking researched this. I didn't know that we were going to talk about every single other thing in the world. I should have, because we always do. No, it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. It's not bad. It's just that.
Just life.
There's this movie that's like it's life, unfortunately. There's this movie that's like based in, I think, Alaska or something like that, and they've been trying to get it made since like the early 90s, but like the lead cast member keeps on dying or having some horrible accident or some accent.
Hello! And like, no, get out, fuck off.
Yeah. I am from Alaska.
Hey, Papa Booby Alaska. And he's like, jog on, mate.
But yeah, there's,
British.
I wish I could remember the fucking. I wonder if I like Google Alaska movie curse death.
So it's literally every time they cast the main actor in it, something freaky happens to him, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. It's The Curse of Atuk, a Hollywood script that has killed 6 actors. Blah blah blah. Yeah, maybe we can do that another time. Maybe we can do real life curses instead of movie ones or fucking football ones. But yeah,
movie
anyways.
or football one. But that's interesting because then, that headline implies that the script is out killing people. But you could just as easily write and say, actors who go for this script have all died. That's pretty sad. Maybe we should probably look at hiring other younger people, older people. I don't know. But yeah, another recent example also of kind of a cursed thing was the Momo challenge. Do you remember that? It was like a little creepy sort of long face that would appear on kids' shows, and they'll be like, "Kill yourself and have some dinner." I don't know. It just said like
in that order.
That's the trick.
But yeah, I remember this. It's like a weird Japanese kind of anime looking thing.
Yeah, it's like a sculpture that like an artist did, and it's like a big elongated face. It's nothing to do with it, but obviously like people were seeing the videos, and it was like, oh my god, don't click on that. That'll bring you a curse. It's a hoax that became a subculture curse, which then exploded into the mainstream, and at no point was the evidence of reality ever kind of, considered. It was just like, well, this is shit and fucked up, and we shouldn't see it. But yeah, so should I start going through the curses anyways? I picked 5. We were originally going to do a little bit more than that, but maybe if this goes down well, we might do the other 5. I thought just do 5 for now and kind of split it. But these are the best ones, not gonna lie. the other, like, because there's a lot of curses, but as you go down, it'll be like this guy when he takes a penalty kick in the second half after he's headed the ball to the back of the net, he never scores, and it's a bit like, well, it is cursed, I suppose, but it's not a curse because it's not like he'll score the next week and the week after that.
These footballers, every time they have a heart attack, they die. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Look at this list of footballers that are all dead.
Man, there's like this curse on Sergio Ramos. Every time he does something fucking despicable on the pitch, he just gets a red card. He's so cursed.
Yeah.
He's at 49 this year, or his whole career. Like,
he's my favorite footballer of all time, quite possibly.
He lives. It's astonishing someone can achieve so much and be such a dickhead at the exact same time.
Also be like actually a fucking phenomenal player. You could make compilations of how fucking batshit insane he is, but like he is fucking undeniably like one of the best defenders that Real Madrid have had for a very
his clutch goals are just like his headers are on a different level, and I love the fact that like him and Pepe used to be central defense for like 10 years, and they won everything.
Two fucking nutcases.
And it was just like, I suppose it was that thing where you're like, people assume they're such nutcases that like when they did things well, it was just like, oh my god, they haven't punched anyone or killed anyone. Amazing. Incredible defender. But I thought to start off with one a little bit close to home. The manager of Scotland. No, I'm joking.
We all know that you're Dutch, mate. Give it up.
Yeah, the Dutch rudder curse. No, there's people have probably known this because I think this one gets floated around quite a lot in the lore of footy curses. Is the Bela Guttmann curse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the one that like when I think of football curses, I'm like familiar with this.
It's the one. Yeah, no, I wasn't. So full disclosure, I am a Benfica supporter, and have been since I can remember having like genuine thoughts, and that's my curse. Mm. That's my personal curse. That's the one I signed up for. But Bela Guttmann arrives at Benfica, sort of in the mid to early 60s. He does things like he decimates the A team and promotes the youth team. Young players, like players are being scouted recently. He manages to sign Eusebio. And he was one of those managers that had like the classic rule of never spend more than 2 seasons at a club. I think either he came up with that or like he was one of the first people to kind of say it openly. He used to say the 3rd season is fatal. He didn't die at the end of the 3rd season, so that's good. So
maybe that's only a Portuguese thing, because the 3rd season is definitely fatal for Mr. Mourinho.
Yeah, maybe it's like and isn't that linked to TV shows as well? Like a lot of people that make like The Office, was it Monty Python, and like certain TV shows only run for 2 series because they're like,
oh yeah, true.
There's that little rule that Ricky Gervais has, like you shouldn't do a 3rd because you might. I don't know if he's done it since, but you shouldn't because the goal is usually the first one, which is the idea, and the second one when that idea comes to fruition because you know what you're doing, and then it's like, well, let's move on to the next thing. But then you can point out about a million things that have gone on longer, but there you go. So during his time at Benfica, he won a second European title, I suppose it was then. He won a Champions League. second Champions League in his third season at the club. At the time, Real Madrid were kind of like the kings of Europe.
What a crazy time that must have been.
Fuck seeing that shit ever again. Like, it just didn't happen. Just didn't take off. So they beat Madrid in one of the finals. I think the other finals they beat Inter or something. So basically, like, Benfica were literally on top of the footballing sort of continent at least. So in this, he wins the second champion. I want to call it Champions League because I don't want to call it a European title because I don't want to think that they won like the Euros. So I'm just gonna call it Champions League.
There's gonna be like some fucking 60-year-old who downloads this and he's like, "It's not the Champions League. It was the fucking European.
It was the Cup Winners' Cup, you bastards." But yeah, Bela Guttmann then kind of goes to the board and he's like, "Well, I'd like a raise," and they were like, just denied it. It was completely flatly denied. They were like, "Nah, dude."
Fucking that's like something that happens in Football Manager, and you're like, "This game is fucking ridiculous."
Yeah, or like you get that on the old PES games as well, where it was like a guy who's like a 60 overall. He's like, "Well, I need some game time because I need to play more." And you're like, "Who the fuck are you?" Just completely like turned down. It was like, "Yeah, I've won two European trophies. Like, how about a raise?" Nah, dude, don't think so. But then there is speculation that like he was already earning bonuses on top of, like, so if you win a title, you get a bonus. If you reach a certain amount of points, you get a bonus. Like, you get this all the time now in football. Like, if a certain player has a certain amount of appearances, it triggers something in the contract, or a certain amount of goals in the season. If it's like a loan deal, they have to pay the parent club, even if it's not a loan deal. So on his way out, he's obviously furious, and he says, "In the next 100 years, no Portuguese team will win 2 European titles, and Benfica will never be champions without me." I think that's paraphrased, but that's like the most accurate one I could find. So obviously at this point, they've just been crowned European champions for the second time, Champions League winners for the second time. So it's a pretty bold thing to say.
Yeah.
And the 55 years they've gone, or 56 now, I guess, they've gone since, Benfica have won exactly 0 European titles. He said no Portuguese team will win 2 European titles. Like, well, Porto did win it in like 87 and 2004, and then they also won 2 European Cups, but nothing back to back. And I suppose that is more to do with modern football. So Benfica's record in finals from then on was in the UEFA Cup, they lost in 1983 to Anderlecht, 2013 in the Europa League, they lost to Chelsea, 2014 lost to Seville, 1988 Champions League final, they lost to PSV, and in 1989 they lost to Milan, 1-0. So that's 5 finals and no W's. So as far as this being a curse, it was believed, and it was like floated around the final with Milan in 1989 to the point where a retired old man Eusebio, went to Bela Guttmann's grave to beg for the curse to be lifted. Like,
and his ghost was like, "Lol, nope."
It does say 100 years. So you can get fucked for another 50, okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, look forward to Benfica being the Europa champions come 2062, which would be sick. I can't wait.
Dude, if I was the owner of Benfica in like 2011, I would have just fucking cut the guy's family, like whatever family he has left. I would have just given them like such a huge check and said, "Here, this is the bonus that your dearly beloved deserved.
Yeah.
Now please talk to him and get him to fucking fix this."
Yeah, but the weird thing is, it's like, obviously being old enough to watch 2 of the finals in earlier in this decade, like, they didn't not win because they were cursed. There wasn't any sort of moments where it was like, oh, they hit the post there, and there's just something above that's kind of against us. Things are lining
Penalty
up
got
that
saved
way.
by a pharaoh, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, during the penalties against Seville, there was an argument that the Seville goalkeeper was like off his mark before the penalty was taken, but I feel like that's a gripe for the ref. It's not a gripe for Bela Guttmann and the fucking dead gods, and the Greek gods. But that's probably like the most famous curse in football. I couldn't sit here and be like they might not win it because of it, because I don't think Portuguese football's at a level where it could be anywhere near your Germany, your France's, your Spain's, and your England's. But so we could go 100 years without seeing another Portuguese winner. So he was kind of right, but the curse isn't the problem. It's the fear of the curse that's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose because I'll add to this curse, as opposed to I don't want to lose because we don't want to lose. But yeah, there you go. That's the. What would you make of that one then? Do you think that there's any weight to the actual, the idea of a curse kind of affecting people, or do you think it's more like, well, Portuguese football is just not at the level that it was ever?
I kind of do. I think some of it has to come down to belief. I see, having supported Celtic over the years, and also the Ireland national team. When I see the way that these teams, if Ireland are playing against Germany or something, it's so apparent that Ireland just can't pass the ball. But even if Ireland are playing a team who traditionally would be on a very similar level of ability as Ireland, let's say Poland, the way the Polish players kick the ball and just hold on to it is just...
Sorry, I was thinking more like an Andorra, just being
more... fucking, you want to go down the list of times that Ireland have played Portugal in our lifetime and how that fucking favors Ireland with the results, Miguel? Huh?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. No.
I
don't want to.
I don't know if I do either, but I know that I have
some scary shit underneath these stats, mate.
I've been to games where Ireland have beaten Portugal. I've been there in the stadium multiple times. So
I off the top of my head, I can think that Portugal played Ireland in the 2002 qualifiers.
Yeah, that's right. And what happened there?
They both went, but Ireland, I believe, won one of the games, and the other one, I think they scraped a draw. I'm not googling this. This isn't me being like, haha.
Scraped a draw.
Yeah. The old we're winning 2-0, then Portugal scored quite late. Yeah, scraped the draw for Ireland. Oh, lucky. But sorry, when you're playing Poland or say in a World Cup, it would be your sort of B to C level country teams, right?
Yeah, well, I think Ireland just don't hold on to the ball at all. Whereas if you look at Poland, clearly know how to play football, and it's there's just a gulf in class between the two teams. But Ireland tend to do well in situations where they believe that they can do well, or something to that effect. But the same thing applies to Celtic. But when I think about the power of belief in teams, I think that it doesn't really matter how well they keep the ball, as long as the gulf in class isn't too great. I still think that the underdog can come out on top as long as they have the psychology behind it. The run that I think Porto winning the Champions League in 2004 is it is an amazing achievement, obviously, but I think it's slightly overstated in how brilliant it is by the fact that they played Monaco in the final. And Monaco at the time were a good team, but they weren't a great team. And I think that Porto team just had a very strong... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think Porto were probably better because they had a really strong spine, and they'd also just developed a reputation as winners, and they had developed a sense of belief because they had Mourinho, who's one of the greatest motivators of teams in our lifetime. Especially then. Yeah, not at all now, but back then.
He can say what you want now if he's kind of a shell of his former self. But obviously, a 50% Mourinho might still be better than most managers, but there was the idea, and also you have to so you can make the argument, say for example, in the Benfica-Chelsea game, Chelsea were coming off the year before in which they won the Champions League, and
Yeah.
Benfica just got to the final for the first time in a long time. So one team's used to being in the final, the other team just showed up. The year after, Sevilla was this was the first of their 3 successive Europa Leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, right, they know how to win. And that's what happened to Mourinho's Porto as well. And it's weird because by the nature of being Monaco in the final, everything that preceded it was like, yeah, but you only beat Monaco in the final. So you don't really talk about like, the game against Man United is quite famous for his celebration, but like that whole era was weird because you had the 2 group stages.
Yeah.
And then you had the knockout, and they played like pretty much the top, 2 or 3 top teams along the way. This is the days where teams like Deportivo La Coruña were quite like high up as well, and your Valencias.
They were so good back in the day.
Yeah.
Deportivo, like when they had like Juan Carlos Valeron, and they had Jorge Andrade in defense, and fucking Roy Mackay up front, and like they were fucking so good, and they were so entertaining. And that game where they had this tie against AC Milan in like the first knockouts, like back then, people don't know this, but like back then the Champions League was like 150 games. It was like fucking, there was 2 group stages for fuck's sake, and then there was like a last 32 knockout, and like there was all sorts of shit. But AC Milan were like 3-0 up, and then they took it to the San Siro, and Deportivo won like 4-0 at the San Siro or something outrageous.
Oh,
like that.
wow.
Yeah,
that was like the
so
beginning of
good.
those because obviously those comebacks seem quite normal now because of the last 2-3 years where it's like in the semis.
Yeah.
But like back then it was like if you win 3-0 at away or at home, tie is usually done.
Yeah, and it was
so
AC Milan, like they were like stalwarts in this tournament against Deportivo, who like were a very good team, like we said, but they just weren't considered a team of that caliber or that level of like finesse about them or tradition or whatever. Like they were just a fucking great team.
They just had that swagger that like a Leicester had this year actually, where it's just like fuck it, we're just gonna play the best that we can, the best of our ability, and it doesn't matter who we're playing up against because if we're good enough in what we're doing, we'll beat them, as opposed to having to work around what they're like. So I mean that's
what it is.
Yeah,
like, and that's the belief that you need. And I think like it's so unhelpful, right? If you're like, let's say you have a training camp going on for a final that's coming up. It's the end of the season. You've got like 3 weeks before. You have 3 weeks off basically before the final, and you have a way to go about managing your team and motivating your players for this final. Do you think it makes any sense that the players are going to feel anything other than negativity when there are constant news reports that are saying like, oh, this team is cursed, they don't win in finals, they don't win in this final, they didn't win in this final, they threw away a lead in this final? Like, so you have like, if you just imagine your ability to motivate players, and if you see that as like a bar, like a health bar in a video game or whatever, mentioning previous defeats can only deplete that health bar. Like there's no fucking planet on which you can turn that into a positive, unless you're like some kind of fucking phenomenal mental gymnast who's able to put that through to teams. But I just think that there's something in it. It's not to say that Benfica definitely would have won all these games or whatever, but it can't have had anything other than a negative effect. Like its net valuation on the team just has to be negative. So I think it does play a role in some way. Like
it has to. Like, well, as we were saying earlier, it's like with the conscious decisions and the sort of less conscious decisions, like the fact that you might see a family out might play a part in how you take the bin. So
exactly,
and especially if you feel like, because obviously these Benfica finals more recently were back to back, so you lost in the first one, you lost in the 91st minute to an Abramovich, what's his name, the guy who used to play for Chelsea, Serbian. Abramovich is the owner, isn't it? Ivanovic, thank you. He scored like in the 92nd minute to make it 2-1. And in the second game, we lost in penalties. And you look at the stats, and it's like, well, Benfica didn't dominate either game. But I think it's worse if you're like coming off a final and being like, we could have won it, we should have won it, and you have to do it again, and you're like, this one we made another one. It's always there. You can always, as we said, you can always attribute the weight to it, which then it becomes the monster, the Frankenstein's monster, doesn't it? Where it's like, it's a thing that shouldn't be a thing, but because you're saying it's a thing, I'm now thinking it's a thing, and I'm going to attribute, as we said, the Friday the 13th thing, I'm going to attribute every negative action to the curse, and that's how curses become I suppose more of a you can be like, well, it's logical for us to lose because there's a thing bigger than me going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. I think it played a part. So the second one I found was one to do with Argentinian club Racing Club.
Oh yeah.
So they were quite famous in the 60s. Much like Benfica kind of was over in Europe. They were winning the Copa Libertadores. They won it in 67. Funnily enough, they were then set to face Celtic in the Intercontinental Cup, which I love that name. Someone should make a wrestling title.
That's the one that Pat Patterson famously won
in Brazil.
the first version of, isn't it? That's the...
Yeah.
No one has ever beaten the Honky Tonk Man in an intercontinental
cup
title
match.
Final. Yeah,
yeah. FIFA got his little grubby paws and then called it the FIFA Club World Cup, which sounds like a tongue twister. Club World Cup, Club World Cup.
All of those names are so fucking stupid. If you look at any fucking tournament name before 1999, they're all so fucking stupid. Oh yeah, we won the Cup Winners' Cup, we won the Cup Medals Cup, we won the Intertoto Cup, we won the Milk Cup. Listen, lads, fuck off, will you? You have serious branding issues here. When it comes to, I just can't fucking get behind saying if my team won the Intertoto Cup, I would sooner tell someone that I support a team that got relegated than have to say, oh yeah, we won the Intertoto Cup. Fuck off, nobody fucking cares.
It's I remember a time period where it was it wasn't the championship, it was the Coca-Cola championship. So I didn't feel winning the Coca-Cola championship. Coca-Cola. Do you want some the Carabao Cup? Carabao. What the fuck is a Carabao?
See, I refuse to learn what a Carabao is. I have a niggling suspicion that it's an energy drink, but
I think
won't
it's an energy drink as well. Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, it's either that or it's a fucking new type of bookies or so. I don't give a shit what it is. I refuse to. I call that cup the fucking the Carling Cup or the Worthington Cup. I'll call it either of those two things. And I sometimes still call the championship Division 1 just because I think it's fucking hilarious to do that.
England is a weird one. It's the only country where League One means the third league, the third.
Yeah, I know it's so fucking irritating, and I kind of I think that they are right. There is some subconscious thing where you kind of do think the championship is better. Because it's in between the two.
Yeah.
I also think it's given rise to those fucking idiots who say stuff like the championship is better than the fucking main league, and it's shut your fucking mouth.
If you put a Fulham over in France, you could say they could finish 10th, and it's they wouldn't.
I'm sorry, but Inter are better than Barnsley, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
so.
Because if you put a Fulham in Italy, they wouldn't have the resources, so they'd probably be looking at getting relegated. Whereas here, because the resources are there, they're signing fucking World Cup winner Andre Schürrle and realizing he's gonna rot in the bench and get relegated. It's not what you do with it's not how you have the finances, it's what you do with them as well that's just as important. Yeah, you might look at a team like Marseille and be like, yeah, they never win the league because PSG owns it, but maybe their goal is to qualify for the Champions League this year, and that's it. And kind of build on that, not do your teams that get promoted where they sign a whole new squad, don't have time to integrate it, get relegated, and then now they're left with this massive wage bill. Look at Portsmouth, look at QPR, look at West Ham, mostly teams that Harry Redknapp gets his hands on, and they tend to go like that. That's the argument that when people say stuff like if Celtic were in the Premier League, they would actually do really well, and it's a solid argument. It's not based on the fact that Celtic fans genuinely think that Lee Naylor is a fucking better left back than I don't know, whoever the best. Or
left
Scott
back
Sinclair can cut it in the Premier League again, because he's gone there. And it's just no, he left there because he wasn't good enough to be at Man City. Yeah. But that's fine. That's not a dig at the club that he's going to, because they're making the best of his services to the teams he's play. You can only play what's in front of you, right?
But if Celtic were in the Premier League and they got £200 million in fucking television rights with the kind of glamour and sense of grandeur that already exists around Celtic Football Club, which I know some Rangers fans listen and I'm sorry, but Celtic are like a huge brand. Like lots of players say it. Like like you see the Barcelona players say it all the time. Like Celtic are a huge club, and they kind of idolize the sense of fan atmosphere and like all of those things. And Celtic have also won like significant trophies throughout their time as a club. If you take that branding strength and put that in the Premier League with their television revenue, like. So yeah, Celtic are absolutely going to become a much bigger club than they are now, and like they would absolutely be competing not for the Premier League title, like that's ludicrous, but like they'd certainly be a top 6 team easily with that kind of revenue. Yeah. And like I don't buy it. The fella who won like all the fucking trophies with Celtic over the last few years is now managing a team in the top 4 in the Premier League. So like it's not really like this is a fucking impossible feat or like that it's a ludicrous argument, because it's actually a very sound argument. It just has a little bit of nuance to it. It just has something to say other than like, yeah, Biram Kayal is Paul Scholes, basically. They're the same level.
Yeah,
no one's saying that, you know?
And also like so the process of Celtic joining the Premier League, well, if it hasn't happened like say for 100 years, like say a Swansea or a Cardiff, maybe Scottish football would be ignored because it's not in London, it's not in Manchester, it's not one of the metropolitan places. But if Celtic are coming in now, as they are now, as known as they are now, with winning, was it 3 trebles or something ridiculous like that back to back?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be like, well, you'll be slotted in 17th. They'd probably be sort of like a Wolves level.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not Fulham going to that's not like but that's not like a Fulham going to League One in France, where it's like, no, you're from the league below, and you've got like no history, and you've got like no kind of like, I mean, they did get to that Europa final years ago, and that was an incredible run under I think it's Hodgson's manager, but the gravitas doesn't come from the fact that like your wage bill's bigger than the others.
Yeah, know? Exactly. Yeah, it's something more than like
Celtic are a huge club in a league that's not particularly so big. Hey, I can relate to that. Benfica are a huge club. That's like one of the biggest like fans support outside of like the country that they're in out of any club in the world. I think it's quite high up there, and. I'd be, if you do like a wordplay with people, unfortunately, if you go name teams that play in Scotland, they'd probably give you Rangers or Celtic, and they'd probably give you Celtic first, because of what's been going on with Rangers for the last like couple of years, right?
Let's just be diplomatic and say it's alphabetical.
Yeah.
C comes before R.
C comes
that's
before
a nice
R.
way of looking at it. Celtic and Rangers. It's C. Yeah, it's fine.
For Benfica, for example, like Porto has actually won the bigger titles, you could argue, with the Champions Leagues and Europa League. Yeah. But Benfica are more well known. And nowadays, it's safe to say that Benfica have sold, like you can like not to make this the Benfica podcast, but there's a lot of players still playing in almost every top league or division that are former Benfica, and that's not a coincidence, you know. I think obviously at one point it would have been like. There's one in Barca, PSG, Bayern Munich, kind of. I guess Renato Sanchez did leave. Man City, you got Bernardo Silva. Like they're everywhere, you know. And that's just the 3 off the top of my head. Where it's like at Barca, you got Nelson Semedo as well. But yeah, so I think that argument. By the way, I have done that. I've actually played Save, where I put Celtic in the Premier League. And it's actually a lot of fun because I kind of was playing as if like nobody wants me in this league. I'm gonna fucking smash it and take it back to Scotland.
Yeah. I did a series on my YouTube channel where I put Celtic in the Premier League, and I got a season out of it, and then actually I don't think I finished the season. In fact, I don't think I even put them in the Premier League.
In fact, I don't even think I played the game. I just thought of it once.
I know that I did. It's the only YouTube series I ever did where I had face cam in it, and I remember being like incredibly uncomfortable about that, but also being excited about the prospect of doing a new career mode. And then I remember being like, wow, I fucking hate FIFA so fucking much that I just can't fucking bring myself to do this anymore. And I still get people asking me to go back to that series all the time. But
It would always
I
be.
will not.
You'd always live in this conundrum though, where people would be like, "Go back to doing FIFA. That's what established you first." And then you go and do it, and people are like, "Oh, I do miss the podcast though." And you're like, "Ah, fucking hell." I can't be both. Sorry, but back to Wrestling Club.
Yeah, sorry,
so
fucking.
that's
I
alright.
derail you so
That's
much.
all right. So as I was saying, they won the Copa Libertadores. Hey, it's your show. They won the Copa
Yeah,
Libertadores.
that's right.
Copa Libertadores. They beat Nacional 2-1. So obviously this was huge in a country, in a continent, I should say, that is just riddled with football fever. For the lack of a better term, football just it's like a religion in certain countries. So they then played Celtic in the Intercontinental Cup. They beat Celtic. No, sorry, they lost the first match 1-0 and then won the second match 2-1, which back in those days means you got to have a replay, which then they had a third match and Racing won 1-0. I actually Wikipedia'd
offside
this match.
That goal was a handball offside.
It was Henri style.
Yeah.
6 sendings off, 2 for Racing and 4 for Celtic.
Fucking hell. What?
Yeah.
What the
In
fuck
a
went down in
third-
that game?
I honestly, the Wikipedia page is like, fucking hell, like what? They ended up with 7 people.
Jesus
Mental.
Christ.
So obviously the whole of because Racing being the bigger team that they are, the city went into chaos. It was like when Napoli won the fucking the was it the UEFA Cup, and it was just like nothing else mattered. And then you had the crosstown rivals who were Club Atletico Independiente, and their fans were obviously furious for all this happiness. They're like, fuck this, fuck all your happiness. Some of the supporters then broke into the stadium of Racing and they buried 7 dead cats. So they
old school.
Old
curse.
school. This is like your sort of your basic 5. Your fave 5 of curses. It's like you got this, you got the voodoo doll.
Yeah.
You've like that's like you putting the dead frogs on the door, where the fuck that one is. So they did it. So I guess the ritual implied that like the cats would have demons. That was basically what you're doing is you're taking out insurance on this curse being on forever. Is what you're doing by burying them there. So obviously they do this and it's not kind of like going, it's not news, it's not stated. It's like so we go into the 70s and Racing starts steadily falling. So they just keep getting worse and worse. In the 76-77 season, they're 1 point away from being relegated, which is lucky. And then 7 years later, they were relegated in 1983. They won exactly 1 title, which was the Supercopa Sudamericana, which I think is the South American Super Cup in 1988. But basically, it's a dark sort of timeline. Financial problems, because obviously they're trying to sign people, leads to bankruptcy. And this is across this time period, you start to build up this idea that there is this ginormous curse of like the other Independiente fans are just like, well, we did bury cats, and people are like, no, because that's fucking mental. How the hell would you even be able to bury cats on the thing? But once they got relegated, I think it kind of gained much like that's the thing, much like the Benfica thing. It's like once bad things happen, all of a sudden the curse is very real, right?
Yeah.
100,000 Racing fans gathered and started legitimately like looking for the cats. They found 6 out of 7.
Wow.
So the cats were there, which is absolutely insane.
That's perhaps the fucking weirdest part of the whole
It's
thing.
that it was there. Like, that's terrifying as well.
Where
Like,
do you think they found the cats before they buried them? Where do you think they got them from?
were they already dead? Like, were they buried alive? Like, I didn't really find too much information about it, because I'm guessing the people that did it or saw the people that did it wouldn't want anything to do with it in case they themselves get cursed for being a part of it or something.
True, yeah.
You'd want to kind of keep away. Fast forward to 2001. We're now in 2001. They've got a new manager, Reynaldo Merlo, and Merlot if you're French. I don't even know if that's funny. But there you go.
No, I don't know either.
It's not funny at all. Yeah, he declared that like nothing's gonna happen until this last cat is found. He went as far as having the pitch completely dug up, demolished and renovated. They found the seventh cat, and the curse was lifted. And the same year, they won the Primera División for the first time since 1966. So 35 years after it happened, they won a title. So the exact time period that the cats were buried was the time they won just one Super Cup. Now that feels like a proper bookended curse, you know?
Yeah, completely. Especially we're not doing anything till this is found. Found it. All right, let's win.
Yeah, we won. Oh yeah, we've already won, mate. It's insane because especially from being like top of Europe and top of the world technically by winning the IC title. The
King of the Ring.
Yeah. So for this one, I suppose like the other one, it's the exact same thing where like the curse I think did weigh on people.
Yeah, definitely.
Like from relegated to bankruptcy all the way back up to being on top. Like that's a hell of a journey. And maybe people that support Leeds should maybe look into seeing if any cats were buried in their yard as well.
Yeah. I was trying to make a joke there, I don't know. I don't know. You know the way like Sunderland are called the Black Cats? Like, if there's one man that'll bury some cats, it's Chris Coleman or
it's Jermaine Defoe. Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't know if he's still
Howard
there.
Wilkinson,
Yeah. So yeah, that one is actually that's the one I kind of had the most trouble kind of being like, well, how's that not a curse? Like,
yeah, that I'm giving that one 9 dead and buried cats out of 10. That's like straight up most probably a curse.
Yeah, there's no other way to kind of see it as. I mean, again, it's like you have the other fans probably chanting about all these curses and all these cats that are buried, and they found 6 and they still didn't win anything, and it's like found the 7th. We were the best. Interesting though. I can't think of too many other times where something like that's been done. But it's kind of cool and it's kind of interesting because it makes your club like, ooh, there's some bit of voodoo going on here.
Yeah. My football club is magic.
Yeah, my football club's cursed by the cats. And yours isn't. So the next ones, I should say the next 3 aren't necessarily as deep. Like kind of, there's a lot of shit about witch doctors. I just want to say that now. A lot of stuff out there from witch doctors, like curses on teams, curses on players. But like, I try to be the ones where it's kind of like there's more interest in just like a person said that they did that and they did it and that was it.
Tell me this: do you have England's World Cup penalty bullshit in there?
No, I didn't
Good.
even think of that.
Okay.
You can't make excuses for sucking, okay?
Yeah, that's very true, yeah.
But Benfica did not suck on this Europa League finals. Let's put it down the record. No, I don't think that the curse is Ricardo, okay? And
with no
enough
gloves.
Said. But enough said, yeah. Do you know what they've been doing these in certain Portuguese Twitters and sort of groups that I'm a part of. They've been posting a lot of people, a lot of sort of videos of people looking back on the match that like were involved in it. Mm-hmm. And they did one with Ricardo, funnily enough, and he said he only took the gloves to try and intimidate the England players. There was no sort of second thought behind it.
Yeah,
it was just like, this will look weird, won't it? And I'll do it. Yeah, because I think he says he puts off as a Darius Vassell. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
And then on and on. But yeah, so the
that's the thing. It's not a curse. It's the fact that England went to a fucking international tournament with Darius Vassell.
Yeah, like, and the year after that, like the 2006 one was unbelievable how he saved 3. That I'll never forget.
Which was the one where Wayne Rooney stamped with his studs on Ricardo Carvalho's testicles,
yes.
But all of England as a nation collectively decided it's Ronaldo's fault.
Do you
that
know
he
what?
got sent off.
Funnily
What?
enough, that's the same one. That's 2006. Because that's
That
when they
was-
get to the penos, and that's when they lose. They lost 3-1 on penalties, which is mental to see a penalty shootout go like that. Rooney came out and said, and he was like, well, I would have done, he finally said, I would have done the same as the Portuguese did if one of my players got stomped in the balls as he did, Carvalho did. But the weird thing is, the wink, do you remember the wink?
Yeah.
Well, the wink is just an exchange between Scolari, obviously manager of Portugal at the time, where he just goes, stay calm, and Ronaldo winked at him.
I know,
But
man.
the way it was put across here was like, he did it. He made his boot go into his nuts. It's ridiculous.
It makes no fucking sense on any level that like an Argentinian referee would send off an English player because a Portuguese player said, "Hey mate, this was actually a red card, please send him off." Like he fucking stamped on the player, and I can't believe you can watch this on YouTube. There's like the fucking in the studio thing, BBC, and Alan Shearer is like, "Oh yeah, and it was that Portuguese winker Ronaldo," and it's like, dude, can you fucking just pull your head out of your fucking English rectum for 5 fucking seconds and objectively analyze this game? Like, you sad fuck. I cannot believe he got fucking paid money to sit in that studio and cry like that. It's like
him,
such a fucking
it was who was the other one? Ian
Right.
Ian Wright, and it was Lineker, and it was like, that is the kind of shit that like the next day in school, like, it was brought up, and it's a bit like,
the only fucking way you can
that's
analyze
how
the game
you-
that way is if your blood is English. Like,
that's
there's
how you
no
turn-
other set of circumstances. Like,
that's how you can turn like public opinion on a person, a player, a human being into like vitriol, and like even as a kid, I was like, they shouldn't say that shit. Like, you and I can say that shit. I'm not on TV telling people fucking I am, a impartial, like, and I know it's your country going out and stuff, but trust me, like, I've now seen tournaments like where I can't get an English stream, so I have to go get a Portuguese stream, or I'll get like a French stream, obviously not that I understand French, but like, there's a certain level of like decorum about a loss that it's like, you were the better team. End of argument. And I feel like sometimes England have a hard time with that. They had a hard time in 2004 because apparently Sol Campbell scored a goal that gets cancelled. 2006, they I say cancelled, it's like ruled for a foul. Like, not like cancelled, like hashtag me too. Cancel him.
The goal was deemed to be too racist.
Get out of the net. Yeah, and then 2006 you had this Rooney thing, and then 2010 you had the ghost goal. So it took pretty much out of the entire time that I've lived in this country, all the way up to Euro 2016, where it was like, you have nothing to cling on to, no excuses. Iceland was just a better team. That's it, Yeah. And that's why it felt like Schadenfreude, not for the players, because I do like. It's weird. I think we've probably said this to each other before. At least
most likable England team ever.
I like the England players. They all seem like really good, decent group of people with like good heads, especially like the
Kyle
younger
Walker.
ones. Yeah, especially your Kyle Walkers. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Generally speaking, like, it seems to be they have this sense of like, we know we're not the best anymore. Like, and whereas before you could make the argument that's like, well, they probably thought they were quite good, and then they get themselves find out, and they just wouldn't accept it. So it took all the way until 2016 for a loss to be just genuine, and it was like, oh, it couldn't have happened to a team that I actually feel the more like, they don't really deserve the shit they're gonna get for it, but at the same time, at least they're not blaming the other teams, whatever you want to insert here, for their failures. So.
One time I was in a pub in Leicester watching the 2014 World Cup, and it was the game where James Rodriguez scored that amazing goal.
Oh my god, peachy.
There was these 3 lads sitting behind me, and they were talking about. They were like, yeah, Yeah, Uruguay won the first World Cup. What was that, like 1934? And they still haven't stopped fucking going on about it. It's like, hold on a second now here, lads, because I believe that you are from England. First of all, I would just like to say I have never even met a Uruguayan person in my life. Never mind heard one going on about the fact that they won the fucking first World Cup. Second of all, there is one country that is widely renowned for its ability to still harp on about 1966. What country would you say that is? Like, oh my fucking god!
It's the
like
Germans.
lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, like it's not and that they're always going to live in the shadow of that too, because they're just defined by that. And I think that you will notice this, that like the teams that have won things more than once, they're not necessarily defined by the win, but the teams that kind of define themselves by a certain win or a certain title, they really have a hard time getting past them. Obviously, because they meant so much. I get that.
And in the interest of fairness, as Vince McMahon would say, like, I will straight up admit, like, Celtic fans do this all the fucking time. Celtic fans never stop going on about 1967 and everything to do with that title win and how, like, great it was and how record-breaking it was and all that stuff. Like, that's just a thing that football fans do. So,
and
like,
it's funny. See, we were just talking about Wrestling Club. That 67 win leads them to lose the Intercontinental Cup.
Yeah.
To wrestling, but you don't really hear about that, do you? They're not going to be like, oh yeah, and that year didn't turn out too well because we lost later on.
Yeah.
It's insane. So you find this, that like I don't think Brazil or Germany would be like, well, we won it in 94, we won it in 2002 or whatever year they won it, and be like, well, that's that then. Like, we're always going to be defined by this, like, or Spain for that matter, where there's just like more. So it feels like 1966 was a long time ago. And I can say this now because obviously the country I support has won the last 2 European-based tournaments, so that helps as well. So I don't have to be like, well, we've never won one, so we wouldn't know what it's like. But like, even 2016 was a long time ago. That team was a long time ago. Those people were a long time ago. Yeah, one guy still is quite good still at that level, but like, I'm not going to be there and be like, oh, if only we had Nani. If only we had an informed Nani, even though we had an incredible Euros. Like, he did. He scored 3 goals. Like, him and Ronaldo up front in a 4-4-2 playing without strikers. It's that thing where you're like, how's this going to work? And then it works, and you're like, man, they should have been doing this every year. Fuck you, Nuno Gomez.
I couldn't.
And Elder
my
Pacifica.
Nerves. My anxiety could not handle another tournament of Ronaldo bullying Nani for 90 minutes. I just can't. The whole time I was just like, oh my god, Nani, it's okay.
Yeah.
Lift your head up and keep playing.
Yeah.
He's just sour because he hasn't
He's not
scored
screaming
yet.
at
You're
you.
doing fine.
Yeah, he's screaming your name and swearing, but he's not at you. It's your motivation. But yeah, and then obviously they actually worked out quite well, those two, which is odd. But sorry. So next curse is the Neverkusen. The Neverkusen curse. This one kind of ran in the 90s and 2000s. Well, we're in the 2000s, so I wrote that weird. Sorry.
Well, yeah, we're in the 2010s. Well, we're in the 2020s, but this was the early 2000s. Yeah.
So they're basically known for just being like the runners-up, the bridesmaids, if you will, of football. Never the bride. Oh, shame. I suppose that's kind of like the reputation that Spurs have in this country, even though I don't think Spurs are like, they must have imploded like once or twice, but because again, that's your narrative, then that's you, Yeah. Like the probably a few games against certain teams they imploded, but so Bayer Leverkusen, they finished second in 97, 99, 2000, and 2002, and 2011. They were beaten to the title on the final day of the 99-2000 season. They lost, kind of like Benfica a couple of years back, they lost 2 of the 3 final games to see a 5-point lead disappear as Dortmund beat them in 01-02. They lost that year. They lost the Pokal, the DFB Pokal final, which is the German Cup essentially, and they lost the Champions League final to the Leverkusen game. I'm thinking that's the Zidane shot in that final. the Mad Sedan volley. So
Yeah, you're right. That was at I believe that was at Hampden Park. Weirdly enough.
Yeah. I think there's a mention of that, like even in some of the clips that I've seen of the commentary. So for them, it's not so much a curse of a thing happening. It just seems that like no matter what they do, they'll never win. 115 years they've never won the German top league.
They should feel especially aggrieved about that because their team was fucking sensational back then. Like from the whole period from like 97 to like 2002, they basically just fed players to Bayern Munich. Like they had like some of the players they had Lucio, one of the best defenders of our lifetime. Definitely, they had Jens Novotny, who was a very solid German centre back. They had Karsten Ramelow, another he was a veteran at the time, but he was still. I think he might have been the captain in Germany's 2002 World Cup. They had a young Michael Ballack. They had a young Dimitar Berbatov. They had a young Landon Donovan. They had Bernd Schneider, who was a consistent German international. They had Oliver Neuville, another consistent German international. They had a guy called Marko Babic, who was one of Croatia's best players. And they had... who is the fucking... Robert Kovac, another Croatian player. Boris Zivkovic. And that guy whose name I can never pronounce, but he was
Kovac,
left back.
as in the last Bayern Munich manager. That one.
That might have been... I think that was Niko Kovac.
That's Niko
They're
Kovac,
brothers.
sorry.
Okay. They're brothers. And I'm pretty sure Niko actually played for Leverkusen at some point too. I might be wrong on that though. They also had Diego Placente or however you pronounce his name.
Placenta.
Placenta, that's correct. And I don't know if I mentioned Zé Roberto in that last
the evergreen
list of players. But like
the man
Zé
who
Roberto
will not retire. He's still going.
Is he still playing?
43 years old, yeah.
No fucking way.
Or at least he must have been until quite recently, because you can still sign him on quite a few. Let me have a quick look. Quite a few pezzas. He comes up as a. So does Juan Sebastian Veron, by the way. He's still
the
win.
man himself.
Yeah, he stopped playing in 2017 for Palmeiras, and he is 45 now. So yeah, he would have been 43.
Fuck
which is
me.
insane.
What a man. Yeah.
Yeah. What an engine. But yeah, he's no King Kazu. Don't know if you know who King Kazu is. Do you know who that is?
No.
I'll tell you. It's Kazuyoshi Miura. He's a Japanese player. He's been playing since 1986.
Oh, yes, I do know this guy, and he scored last season still at like the highest level in Japan, I think.
Yeah. His most recent start came on April 4th, 2019, at the age 52 years and 37 days.
Fuck me, yeah. What a player. Is the team that he played for, is it Yokohama FC or something like that?
Yeah, Yokohama FC, Tokyo FC. I'm just naming places in Japan now. I don't know. Yes, one of them was Yokohama FC, because you could find them on PES, but they wouldn't make him any older than 45 because the game doesn't let you be any older than 45. But it should be mentioned that this guy has played in Brazil. He has played in Italy as well, and he has played in Croatia. So he's not like, oh yeah, of course over there you can go on forever. It's kind of nice that he actually stepped in, especially going to play in Brazil in the 80s as a Japanese guy. Must have been interesting. Yeah. He also had a trial with Bournemouth in like 80 something or 90 something. But that Leverkusen team was like, all of those people have individually gone on to win everything by going where they went, you know, especially the ones you mentioned, definitely.
Yeah, like that is just an insane level of quality. I don't know, like, I know the people listening are a lot younger than me, but like Google these players. You've all heard of the likes of Michael Ballack and stuff like that. But these are all players who either at the time were living their potential or else had amazing potential.
Yeah.
And Bayern Munich swallowed up like most of them.
Yeah. So, which is to this day this carries on.
I even think that like Bayern Munich's front line, they had Giovanni Elber, who I'm pretty sure Elber played for Leverkusen before he went to Bayern. And there's someone else they had in their team as well. They basically just got other players from Leverkusen, and that was the way that their league was at the time.
The motto. Yeah. will they ever be crowned champions of Germany? I think it would be nice. I think it would be nice just to make up for that those sort of failures.
Yeah.
And as you said, like about the potentially good players that went on to become even better, or they're already playing at a level, or the ones that are playing above their level. With football, you'll notice this as well. It kind of comes in eras, and it's like if a national team or if a team doesn't capture the titles that you think they would over this, like you can make this argument about Spurs now, is that like they have this incredible pool of players. I'm not saying you should be winning every title every year, but like you want something after, because usually teams kind of have a sort of 2 to 4 year kind of like staying period where the core is the same before they kind of, people get older or retire or go somewhere else, go to China, whatever. You have these sort of eras, and it's just like you have to capitalize on them, because I'm pretty sure Leverkusen endured some pretty tough years in and around these, as we go into the late 2000s and the early 2010s, if you will. I don't know if obviously they finished runner-up in 2011, but like they were finishing like 10th. And they're traditionally seen as like one of the bigger teams. Yeah.
Yeah, they were always like a top 4 team in Germany around that time. But then, like, there was that weird time in German football about 10 years ago where there was like, I think in the space of 5 years, like 4 different teams won it. You had like Wolfsburg came up, even like the likes of like
Stuttgart.
Hoffenheim were top. Stuttgart, yeah.
With Fernando Mera.
Kevin Kuriani and fucking Timo Hildebrand and all the lads.
Yeah, it was like Stuttgart, Wolfsburg, Dortmund.
Hoffenheim
obviously
had a really good season where they almost won the league, I think. Or I don't know that they almost win it, but they were like top of the league for something like 6 months or so during that time. It was,
I remember that, it's like I think you can stretch like from 2001 to like 2012. It was just till pretty much Pep came over. I think that kind of stopped the others from even remotely winning. Man, Wolfsburg were a sick team to watch, because they had quite deep runs in Europa League as well.
Yeah.
And then they had that little resurgence kind of about 5-6 years ago where they were beating the likes of Man United, because they had like Dante and Vieirinha and Bas Dost, Kevin De Bruyne, who is just like becoming the player that he now is essentially. But I do think you have these little periods of teams where it's just like, if you're consistently competing for finals and getting quite far in cup tournaments or European cup tournaments or even in your own league, and you don't win anything, there's this knockdown effect that'll be like, you'll finish third, second, and then like 10th, 11th, 14th, 16th, because it's just like, they have nothing to show for it. I guess it gets harder and harder to motivate people when at the end you have, look at Spurs even this year, and the way that like since the Champions League final it's just been weird, and there's these moments of greatness. I know I'm picking on Spurs, to be honest. They're just a good example for this, I guess.
Fuck off.
All right, look at all right, it's at the end of the show. That's such a weird way of ending it. Yeah, fuck off. Thank you for listening. But I think you just need to win something at these. It's easier said than done, obviously. But
that's why I have so much respect for Jamie Vardy. Like, he's still with Leicester, but like he's still playing his heart out. He's still scoring insane goals. Like, he still believes so much in them, and it's like real. Like, Mahrez moved on, and like I respect Mahrez for doing that too.
As well.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like, Vardy is just one of my favorite footballers. I don't give a shit. I know like he fucking may have said something potentially racist at some stage. But I don't give it. Just the fact that he was like, I don't think he said something that was actually racist, but he said something that was like, oh, this is crazy. We need to have a big conversation about this. I don't know. I think he said the word. I think he said the word Jap.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Like, I don't know, is that a derogatory
wartime
term?
talk, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, maybe it is, and maybe like I'm wrong, but I whatever. I'm not getting into this now. But
he plays like he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care if he's up against Liverpool or Preston North End. He
backed himself, like when he was like 25 playing in like League 2 or whatever it was for Fleetwood, and Leicester were like, all right, we want to sign you and bring you to the Championship, and he was like, okay, that's fine, I'll take like all this and this, but there's one thing I want embedded in my contract, is that I get a bonus if I'm ever capped for England. And they were like, okay, we'll do that for you. And then like he fucking did it. Like I have so much respect for someone who backs themselves like that. Like, It's just I don't know. It's like the most admirable trait, like that level of self belief, and then when they actually come true with the thing that they said they were going to do, it's I don't know. It's inspirational.
Yeah, the realization of like actually he. I don't know. You only get that from these stories of people coming out because if Kylian Mbappe's backing himself, you're like, well, why wouldn't you? You know,
Yeah.
like even
Yeah.
at 18, because I happened to follow Monaco for that year where they stormed the league. Probably one of the best runs in football you'll ever see, scoring like 150,000 goals, and yeah, obviously he's gonna back himself, isn't he? But yeah. It's astonishing the man's still going strong, and he seems to only be getting better with age, and they kind of have that thing where they know when to play him, when to not play him, so they're making the most of him. So the next one is about a witch doctor, but it's the only one that I could find about a witch doctor that was genuine. So in a bid to win a World Cup qualifier against Rhodesia, which is now known as Zimbabwe, the Australian team hired the witch doctor who buried bones. This is Australia. Like, what are you playing at? Buried bones near the goalpost to curse the opposition. So they win the game 3-1 against Rhodesia, or soon to be Zimbabwe. But then they couldn't pay the witch doctor $1,000. So
fucking hell, how dire were things for Australia? They can't come up with a fucking grand. Jesus Christ.
And I love this. Instead of being like, well, I'll take you to claims court, the doctor was like, actually, fuck you. I'm going to reverse my curse. I'm going to put the curse on you, brother. What are you going to do when the witch doctor comes for you? And he cursed them, and he's like, yo, you're going to lose against Israel and not qualify for the World Cup in 1970, which they didn't. And I think in 2004, they went back and kind of gave the doctor the money, or no, that's not right. They hired another witch doctor in Mozambique to reverse the curse and be like, can you just flip the yin and yang, just flip it up, and we will give you $1,000 though. So they did it.
What the fuck are they? Sorry, what are they doing?
This is in real life. This is real life. What are they going around? Any witch doctor? It's like, just play the game.
Stop going halfway around the world.
No disrespect
to find
to
someone.
Zimbabwe, but I'm sure they're not exactly hard to beat, or Rhodesia, I should say. They're not exactly hard to beat. So the fact that you're going around getting witch doctors involved is mental. And I love the idea of like...
Especially when you can't fucking afford their services.
If you can't get $1,000 for a witch doctor...
I spent
more
than
than
$1,000 in the pub in the month of December, for fuck's sake. How can they not fucking put up $1,000 for the... Oh, that's fucking insane.
So they hired... I thought this was the best of the witch doctors thing. So they hired another one in 2004 to reverse it, and they ended up qualifying for the 2006 World Cup, and then every single one since.
Nice.
I just think it's hilarious. It's the idea of being like, oh, did the curse work? Oh, yeah, the curse did work. Yeah. Does anyone got the money, though? No. Well, he did successfully put a curse on something else. He probably won't turn that curse around on us, right? Haha. And then obviously, he's going to be like, well, fuck you. Like, I've got this one power that you've just seen me use. I'm going to use it on you. Yeah, so that's the fourth one.
Whoops.
And the fifth curse is it's I don't know if this is more of a curse or more of a kind of frowned upon thing.
As they say in France, they frowned upon.
Frowned croissant upon. And it's essentially people that touch the World Cup or the European trophy before like they win it. And I could find footage. So in 2004, you had Julie, who played for Monaco, touch it. Gattuso did it for the match, that famous match in Istanbul that they talk about every fucking time Liverpool has a game ever. Remember Istanbul? But yeah, in the 3-3, obviously. He touched the cup apparently, and obviously lost. And in 2012, Timoshuk took the trophy, touched the trophy, and then they lost to 2012? Yeah, they lost to Chelsea. Sorry, I got it confused with the year they won. I was like, well, then they won it. But no, 2012 they lost.
Was a good player.
He was. And he was there for ages, like,
Yeah.
he was like late 30s, so must have been decent. And And so basically, yeah, all these people have touched the trophy. They're kind of caught on camera touching it. None of them went on to win it. But like, that was the best one I could find about like kind of like trophies and finals. Because there's a bunch of shit I looked up about Birmingham and being like buried where gypsies died, and it just got a bit weird. And I was like, I don't know how deep to go into this, so it's not really. Yeah, I mean, talking about dead cats was like awkward enough. Because, people love cats. I think we all love cats mostly. And the internet says you can't fuck with cats, as we saw in that documentary. But
that's true.
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd stick with that one. Like, I haven't actually paid attention if anyone's ever touched a trophy in any finals that I've ever seen. But you shouldn't do that. I think there's definitely sort of a mental sort of obstacle that you want to put up on yourself of like, I don't get to touch this until we win it, sort of thing. We deserve to touch it.
That's the only thing that I will ever remember about Ludovic Julie now, is that he fucking touched the trophy and he shouldn't have.
Yeah, because he doesn't have enough highlights like Gattuso, where it's just like, well, he won quite a lot, so yeah, whatever. Maybe touching it once means that he wins like 8 trophies after that or something.
Yeah.
So
and didn't Julie go to Barcelona for like a couple of seasons as well?
Off the back of this, I think he might have gone to Barca off the back of this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he wore number 8 for them, I want to say.
Because I think both of the teams got decimated in that 2004 final. Porto obviously in Monaco. Definitely Monaco, because I think Evra was there. Was Drogba wasn't there, was he? A young Didier Drogba? Did he play?
No, Drogba played for
Saint Etienne or something.
Marseille.
Oh, Marseille. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought
Monaco. Okay. I think Monaco had Fernando Morientes up front on loan.
Yes. Yeah. And they also obviously it's that Evra. They had. Oh my God. There's someone else they had that I just.
Dado Priso. Was he on Monaco? He scored like 4 goals or 5 goals against Deportivo, I think, in the group stages, and it's like the record for most amount of goals in one game in the Champions League.
Oh wow.
Yeah, then he went on to play for Rangers, I think, for like a couple of seasons or something.
I'm not too sure, but obviously I could tell you the Porto team was completely decimated inside out. Yeah. Most have won that up at Chelsea.
Well, 3 of them. Was it Costinha, Carvalho, and Deco all went to Chelsea, is that right?
Eventually, but not right away, because right away you've got Carvalho, Paulo Ferreira,
yeah.
And Maniche went there, and then Deco comes in later on. Maniche is one of my favorite players as well.
Did Costinha go there, or did I make that up?
Oh, no, sorry. Costinha and Maniche ended up playing in Russia together. I always get that confused later on as well. But yeah, they did have Morientes up front, which is hilariously insane for Monaco. Hey, lovely part of the world if you can live there, by the way.
Yeah.
Where because I did read interviews with Bernardo Silva being like, yeah, we're not even like the richest or the most famous people in Monaco, so we gotta get left alone because people aren't really into sports that much. I'm like, that must be such a lovely life for a footballer.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah, especially because I watched the Maradona. I don't know if you've seen the Maradona documentary. Good God, that man was actually good. Like,
I know, yeah.
But the pressure this guy had from the Argentinian fans and from the people over in Napoli, like you can't put that much pressure on one human being. And I suppose that's why Messi probably doesn't feel like he needs to play. Needs to play anywhere. Sorry, something just caught my eye here because I'm looking at the 2004 Monaco team, and Manuel Adebayor was on the bench.
Oh shit, that's fucking crazy.
Are you fucking kidding me? He's still going today as well. Unbelievable. Yeah. Sorry. Anyways, yeah. If you, I mean, that will be like, not that I'm the type of person that makes like, suggestions, but if anyone is interested in a good documentary about football, please watch that Maradona one. It's fucking sick.
I agree.
Yeah, that was
it.
You should watch it first, but I think it's worth it. It's quite interesting because it's like there's Maradona, the person of the narrative, this fat drugged up dude, and then there's like kind of the incidents, and you kind of think like, I don't agree with everything that you did, but I just sympathize with you, which is quite cool.
He's like the Scott Hall of football.
He is. if Scott Hall got cut in half and ran really quickly. Because he's always same hair, same vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was all 5 of them.
Jeez, that was actually like surprising. The racing one in particular was very like I just feel like without knowing the full extent of everything that's ever happened to that club, that feels very significant that they actually went like dug up the thing, found the stuff, and then all of a sudden they win stuff. Because like it's no joke winning your first something in 40 something years. You know what I mean? Like that obviously takes a lot of like triumph and determination and like and motivation and all of that. So like you have to believe that somewhere down the line it at least played a part in the players' minds.
Yeah, it had to, and especially coming off like such like dark days as well. And I bet you the second they won that title, they must have formed a fucking human chain around the stadium to try and block anyone from putting anything underground.
Yeah,
like that would be the first thing. Everyone just stands looking around on the pitch, like, cat, what's going on over there? Like, what's that guy up to? He looks like he might be having a dead cat in his jacket. Keep an eye out. Like, I think. Yeah, they would have gone like, or they would have been, doing all these reverse curses just in case. And it's not like, it's not like when Benfica didn't win the final, they fucking dug up Bela Guttmann because he was buried in the fucking stadium. like, like it's it's fucked up, but the cats were actually there. It's not just an urban legend, which, in a fucked up way, I actually did enjoy that part, as you said, that part of the story, because it's like, okay, there was stuff there. It wasn't just like, they say they buried a giant dragon under the stadium there, but you'll never see it, but it's there, but you'll never see it, but it's there. I kind of like that it was the Cats, and I love the fact that they found 6, and it was just like, I bet they put like 6 near the corner flag, and one way in a random spot in the middle of the fucking pitch as well, so it's like you have to dig the whole thing up. But yeah, football, I suppose, it is like a religion to a lot of people, and it makes sense for people to kind of infuse witchery, cursing. We all, everyone prays to God, and when someone's about to put a penalty in, sort of thing, and the players always thank God, and those things are forever intertwined. So I'm sure you could sit there and probably find a curse that you could argue works for your club and every other club that's ever existed. But
I do love, like, especially in UFC, where like I think like Max Holloway and John Jones, whenever they win, they're like, I gotta thank God. God is the reason why I did all of this. It was all because of God. It's like, yeah, mate, don't fucking give yourself any credit. You did nothing here. God let you do all of this.
Yeah, like at which point do you? So the guy who lost, does God not care about him? I thought God was loving.
Did God just do 5 rounds with the Lionheart in the fucking main event?
Because it's a bit unfair, because the other guy can go up to the commission and go, look, I didn't lose, I was fighting God and I lost. Like, I wasn't fighting John Jones, I was fighting God. Like, what was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So
now you know how Vince and Shane McMahon felt.
Yeah, for those people who don't know, Vince McMahon once had a match with his son as his tag team partner, the product of a semen, as he called it at the time, against the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, Sexy Boy, and God.
Yeah.
Fucking
and
hell.
Also, for those of you who don't know, you can find out stuff like that by listening to WWP, which will be linked in the description, and go subscribe to it. Also, subscribe to my Age of Empires 2 channel. Just because I fucking said so.
Just do the triple subscribe. This podcast, other
Yeah.
podcasts, AOE.
Yeah. How much like attention can you command from the listeners over the? I want you to click the sponsor link. I want you to click the subscriber button on these 3 channels. I want you to click the bell on every single one of them. Yeah, click the like button on at least 3 videos on these 3 channels, and do all that stuff. That'll be
Make sure
great.
to leave comments. Make sure to do this. I recently watched a video with a completionist. He went on a massive rant about how depressed he is about YouTube and the state of YouTube in 2020, because it's just impossible to kind of determine what is algorithmable and followable and kind of transcend, and they try different things. But please let us know if you did like this episode of the Midnight Hour. That would be sick.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. I really fucking enjoyed this. I literally have a pain in like the very bottom part of my jaw from laughing. So.
My job here is done.
Yeah.
There you are.
But yeah, thanks, man. I hope you come back again.
Yeah, man, I'll be around whenever some mad comes into my brain, which is usually twice a month.
Yeah.
But it's whether it's broadcastable is the whole option. But no,
Yeah.
always fun to be here and not just talk about pro wrestling, because there's a whole big world out there sometimes. So
Amen, brother.
Anytime.
There are witch doctors in the old Zimbabwe that need
Shout
to be
out to all the witch. Shout out to the witch doctors out there. You know who you are.
Yeah.
You know what you done.
Of your words and your wisdom and your shape and your smell, your laughs, your cries, your smiles, your thoughts, your dreams, your tears, your fears, your walk. You're not without fault and certainly nor me. You're the one with whom imperfections fit perfectly. That's all it is. We're all crazy, but we won't admit the one is just the one you're comfortable to be crazy with. You put a spell on me. I want you. You put a spell on me. I want you. You put a spell on me. I want you. That's all it is, we're all crazy, but we won't admit the one is just the one you're comfortable to be crazy with. That's all it is, we're all crazy, but we won't admit the one is just the one you're comfortable to be crazy with. That's all it is, we're all crazy, but we won't admit the one is just the one you're comfortable to be crazy with. That's
I've been watching a lot of time. I've been watching lately as well. These Hollywood reporters where they get like comedians or actors all to just talk. I don't know if you've heard of them. One of them, the one I was watching more recently. Let me have a quick look. So this one was comedy actors. It was, hang on, Sacha Baron Cohen, Jim Carrey, Don Cheadle, Henry Winkler, Ted Danson, and who have I missed? Have I missed someone? No, that's it. And Timothy Simmons. I think he's a good guy from Veep. And then I watched the other one, which was, this is probably my favorite one I've seen so far. It was Adam Driver, Shia LaBeouf, Robert De Niro, Tom Hanks, and Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Yeah, that one's fucking sick.
It's so good. I really don't understand the part where Robert De Niro just starts talking about Donald Trump.
Oh my god, yeah.
The fucking question had nothing to do with him. And he's just like, chaos, I'll tell you chaos. There was a man in the White House right now. Okay,
He's
Robert, we're talking about your craft here.
Because that was
this
it.
Guy's a gangster.
He's like, yeah, gangster. It was so funny because I think it was Shia LaBeouf was basically asked if he's ever intimidated by someone.
Yeah,
and he's like, well, Bob, obviously, because he's a fucking legend. He's like, well, yeah, it is that. And we also got to not be intimidated by this guy in the White House. Then it comes to I think his brain just went there. Because I think this was during the time they're not feuding, but I think they're exchanging little remarks. I think, obviously, Robert De Niro is on the record as saying he's not a fan.
He literally can't do any interview without talking about him at all.
I suppose it's because, like, I don't know, it must be a thing where it's just like they're both from New York. He's probably
they're both specifically from Queens as well. Yeah. I think that's a big thing.
And I think he's probably known of him and about him probably longer than most people.
Definitely,
and probably knows all like the stuff that we all know, but it's probably like engraved in his head, and he doesn't really have to worry about anything else. I'm not saying it's right that he just brought it up. I'm not being like and they should all do that, but. It just took
like I agree with everything he said, but it's just like I'm here to listen to you guys talk about like acting and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's just,
how much you hate this guy, and then kind of this really awkward, isn't it? Because Adam Sandler's like, well, I don't know enough to even go and talk about it, and then you have everyone else being like, well, no, because what you can do is point towards things and people and ideas that you gravitate towards, and then they kind of just got out of it, didn't they, by the end? But yes, it's a weird. I was watching it being like, what was the question?
Yeah, I know.
He's just talking for a good 5 minutes about how much he hates this fucking guy.
I thought Shia LaBeouf was really interesting on that. Like, I found him to be the one that him and Jamie Foxx were both, like, they kind of brought the most amount of, like, substance to the table.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, Tom Hanks is such a fucking nothing, man. Like, nothing
you don't like him.
Interesting at all. No, I don't. It's not that I don't like him. Like, he's obviously a great actor. He's not in bad movies.
Yeah.
Like, all of his movies are great, pretty much. I just thought that in that particular interview, he was just so dull. Like, everything he said was just like, he's either repeating something that someone else said, or else he's coughing over everything that Jamie Foxx is saying.
Oh yeah,
else, like, he's just like, his comments were so pointless, you know, like someone will say something like, you know, in like 5 sentences, and Tom Hanks will go, yeah, that's right, a shallow vessel. Like,
the commonality of a man and his performance. I kind of like hearing about like how, because they feel like, you know, nervous and intimidated by movies and stuff like that. So that was quite interesting. But yeah, I actually just been watching those so often that I'm like, this is so nice. They're just talking like people, and then you kind of think like, fucking hell, like these people, their whole lives are like an open book for us to say, oh, he's this and he's done this, but like strip that away, especially with Shia LaBeouf as well, because not only has he been on TV a long time, like he was, obviously they even talked about it, didn't they? They're like, yeah, you were an institution, how's that changed you? It's like,
I know, that's why he's the most interesting one, because he's so like, he's got like all the same hang-ups that normal people, like Adam Driver was very stoic and stuff, and even though he said like, I was super nervous, he's still like, he's so kind of
he's army trained as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's disciplined. Like he actually
Yeah.
exhibits discipline while he's sitting there, and like he's just saying like, "Yeah, I was very nervous," but like you can see in his eyes and stuff, like he's just a very stoic person. I don't think that the nerves he experiences are quite anywhere near the level of
Yeah.
like Shia LaBeouf, who's actually gone publicly insane like a bunch of times. And
Yeah, proper breakdown. But I did like the thing that he said about like learning to love your dad or something that he says is one of the things that he learned because he's kind of like you walk around with these shadows all your life. You're carrying something, and then something else comes on top, and something else comes on top. That's when it feels like the room's getting smaller. I don't know what to do. Everything's out of my control, and it's just like it's trying to control everything. But there you are. Should we get into it, anyways?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's do it.
Ranty
No,
rant.
let's go. Yeah, it's also like it's good that I happened to watch that like quite recently as well.
Same, yeah. Mad that you. I agree with that. It's actually mad that you actually know because the Donald Trump bit obviously stuck in my head. I was like, that is so weird, but there you go.
So fucking strange.
Yeah, there's another thing I want to talk about. Fuck Trump. Okay, but yeah, man. Like whenever you're ready. I guess this is your podcast after all.
You're damn fucking right it is.
And I am nothing.
It would serve you well to remember that, motherfucker.
Yeah, please keep that in mind for the next hour and a half, mate.
Yeah,
That is my show, and I am the voice of Midnight. I am the Midnight voice.
That's a good start. All right.
Safe.
I'm just gonna do like a cold opening because I'm gonna add a post, like an intro in post, because I want to shout out my AOE2 channel.
Ah, okay,
and be
okay.
like, hi, I have 25 subscribers and I would like some more, please.
Yes, if we can get up
Make
that magical 30, guys, I'm talking about. I'm giving away $1,000 in Amazon code.
Yeah.
If we're the 27th follower, you lucky boy. Yeah, man. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, that would be like that's like such a weird. It would be very difficult to research this, but imagine that as a topic, like the most disproportionately high prizes for like the lowest possible bar. Like, yeah, the 35th subscriber to this guy's channel got $1 million.
I just want to shout out they say I've got 10 subscribers. If we can get to the magical 14, the 14th subscriber will never ever have to pay for another meal in his life. I'm paying everything, mate. Please. Please, I need to get 15 people, please.
If you're the 6th person to hit that like button, you're gonna get a brand new Lamborghini. Alright, let's make it happen. Oh man, that would be so good. We should try and I don't know if there's even a way of researching that, but I would very much be interested in figuring that out.
That would be hilarious for sure.
Do you is your audio recording, by the way?
I want to say that it is, because it does it even when I don't think it is.
Yeah, I'd say it probably is.
Quite scary.
Yeah.
Because I don't fucking know what I'm saying off mic here, you know? You know, what if I go, yeah, mate, give us a second, and you just hear slightly off mic.
Yeah.
Fucking prick!
Dan, listen to what this cunt said.
This cunt's still fucking talking. Fucking hell. And then,
I'm the Midnight Hour. Me, Miguel.
I'm the Midnight Hour. I am 00:00 o'clock. That's me. And then come back. Yeah, sorry, mate. What were you up to then?
Unmute. Yes, Mr. Aldenero, your show. Correct.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I love your show. And it's your show. That I've mentioned it's your show. I love your show. It's amazing. And it's yours. And I don't want it.
Oh, fuck. My head is actually sore.
This has already been nice for me. What a nice little clear-headed chat. But yeah, sorry, dude, as you were.
Alright, I'm literally just going to say welcome to the Midnight Hour, and that'll be the start, because I'll have already done the intro, so...
Am I just...
Sorry if that's jarring.
Are you introducing me, or am I just being like, yeah, as you were saying?
Yeah, I'll say... As you were saying. So as you were saying, curses are tenfold.
Like what? There's a bit missing. It just opens up. So as I was saying, curses. Like, am I clicking halfway through this? What the hell?
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Egyptian Bible, is that it's just littered with all of these curses. So anyway.
So yeah, it's like 10 seconds in, and he's summarizing stuff. Okay. Anyways, yeah, go for it. Just go as you
All right.
are.